Life as We Know It with Tom Walton.
Many years ago, comedian George Gobel made an appearance on The Tonight Show with Johnny Carson that lives on forever thanks to YouTube. Mr. Gobel was Johnny's third guest that night. George's turn in the chair followed the witty banter between Mr. Carson and his first two guests, legendary entertainers Bob Hope and Dean Martin. While Mr. Hope and Mr. Martin looked on from the couch, Mr. Gobel took note of his predicament as the runt of the litter that night. "Johnny," he said, "did you ever get the feeling the world is a tuxedo and you're a pair of brown shoes?" It was a classic television moment, and I laugh every time I recall it. With that as context, let me get to the point. The column I write for the Sunday Toledo Blade makes me feel like a pair of brown shoes. I look up to the top of the op-ed page and I read the wisdom, insight, and lovely prose of Keith Burris, a true gentleman and one of the finest writers I've ever known. I glance at the bottom of the page and I see the artfully expressed reflections of David Shribman, a Dartmouth-educated son of New England and a Pulitzer Prize winner. That's heady company. So I ask myself, what am I doing there, parked on the fold of the page between two such distinguished practitioners of the writer's craft, two men who, by almost anyone's definition, qualify as intellectuals, a term I do not use lightly and an attribute I greatly admire. You can read Keith and David or not, it's your call, but I will tell you that these guys are good. Their essays enlighten, their carefully reasoned pieces add historical perspective to politics and life in a new century, a time in America when terrorism, school shootings, and a nation's capital turned on its ear redefine what we thought we knew. Agree or disagree with what they have to say, but when they are disagreeable, it is presented with elegance and grace. For Keith and David, context is critical, and they provide it every week. Then there's me, stuck in the middle, like the hopeless Heck family from the television show of the same name. If Keith and David belong in journalism's penthouse, I should be confined to quarters somewhere in a fictitious TV town in Indiana, which, with some reluctance, claims Sue Heck as a resident. A reader called me an intellectual once. Instantly I felt bad for intellectuals everywhere. While Keith and David glide along like swans, I feel like an ugly duck, paddling like crazy to keep up. Maybe I'm like Forrest Gump's box of chocolates. You never know what you're going to get from me. One week I'm pondering the contents of my junk drawer. Another week I'm confessing that I refuse to eat anything that grew up underwater. I take comfort in doing pieces like that because I know that none of my colleagues in the world of commentary will be duplicating my efforts anytime soon. While the syndicated guys in the New York Times and Washington Post share their thoughts on the Iran nuclear deal or the reality-challenged man-child with the bad haircut in North Korea, I prefer to ponder the evolution of vending machines or the simple formula for writing a romance novel. You know, stuff you won't find anywhere else. So I will continue to look for the humor in a serious world. It's seldom easy, but I enjoy the challenge. I'll never be a swan, but I like the pond I paddle in.
Life as We Know It is written and hosted by Tom Walton and is a production of WGTE Public Media. Life as We Know It with Tom Walton can be heard on WGTE FM 91 every Monday afternoon during All Things Considered at 5:44 p.m. Or hear past episodes at WGTE.org/life.